Alright, so hello everybody, or as the Guyanese people would say, what going on? Anyway, so today we are continuing our journey, our trigonometry journey, and we're moving on to the topic of trigonometric ratios. Or if that word would tie up your tongue like how it would tie up my tongue, you would say trig ratios. Now, just like the Pythagoras theorem, the purpose of the trig ratios would be to find a missing side. But unlike the Pythagoras theorem, when we are given two sides and asked to find a missing side, with the trig ratios, they will give us one side and an angle, and they can ask us to find another side using that one side and that angle. Alright? And also, with the trig ratios, they can give us two sides of the triangle, right angle triangle. That is, when we're dealing with Pythagoras theorem and trig ratios, we are dealing with strictly right angle triangle, no other type of triangle. Alright, so yeah, as I was saying, they can give you two sides and they can ask you to find a missing angle. So for the trig ratios, the purpose of them is to find a missing side or to find an angle. Alright, so there are three trig ratios, sine theta is equal to blah blah blah, what's that? But an easy way to remember it is by a rhyme. I came across this rhyme while I was in college, and the rhyme goes like this: some old horses can always hear their owners approach, and the letter which begins each word will symbolize sine, cos, and tan, and so on, right? As I go on and I put down the ratios, you will see how you can apply this rhyme to remember it. I know CXC would normally put these ratios in front of the paper, but let's just say CXC decides one year that they will exclude it. You'll find yourself in trouble. So it's nice to remember because it's easy to remember. Alright? Alright, so as I said in the intro, when we're dealing with trig ratios, the two purposes of the trig ratios is either to find a missing side or an angle that they ask us to find, right? And before we can, alright, let me just give you the trig ratios. Alright, so these are the three ratios that we use when dealing with trig ratios, right? Sine theta is equal to opposite over the hypotenuse. Cos theta is equal to adjacent over the hypotenuse. And tan theta is equal to opposite over adjacent. As I said, an easy way to remember it is some old horses can always hear their owners approach. Alright? Alright, so I'm trying out another approach as it relates to getting my videos over. I'm switching up from the paper-based to the virtual means. Anyways, so before we can go ahead and use these ratios, one of the most important things that we have to do first, we have to label the triangles. And by label the triangles, I mean label it as the sides, the opposite, the hypotenuse, and the adjacent. So those three things are the things that we want to put on this triangle. Alright, so let's deal with the first one, the opposite. Now, when we talk about the opposite, we are basically talking about the side that is opposite the angle that they give us. In this case, we don't know any angle. They give us theta. Theta is used in place of an angle, right? So the opposite will be the side that is opposite the theta. And the side that is opposite the theta is this side here. So we'll label this side as the opposite. Good, so let's move on to the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse will be the longest side. And the side that is the longest is always the side that is opposite the right angle. So this side is opposite the right angle, so this side will be the hypotenuse. And so lastly, the side that's remaining will be the adjacent side. Or we can say the adjacent side is the side that is adjacent to theta. Alright? So that will be adjacent. So just ignore the handwriting for now. As soon as I get the hang of this app, I will perfect the handwriting. Alright, my handwriting is not good in real life either. So since we've perfected the art of labeling the triangle, I think we can go ahead and apply these ratios to solve a question now. Alright, so let me just switch the board. Good. They have this question. They ask us to find for the missing value, which is x. Alright. So we have to see which one of these three ratios we have to use to find x. And before we can do that, we have to label the triangle. Alright? So we know, let's label it. You know, here will be the opposite because that is opposite 35 theta. And here will be the hypotenuse because it's the longest side opposite the right angle. And the remaining side will be the adjacent. So let's look and see which one of the ratios we have to use. we have to see what they gave us and what we have to find. And we can see that they gave us the opposite. Sorry, we are asked to find the opposite, and they gave us the adjacent. Alright, so we have to look through these three ratios and see which one has the opposite and the adjacent. Alright, and we can see that tan has the opposite and the adjacent. So the ratio that we will have to use is tan, because it has the opposite and the adjacent inside. Alright, and those are the two things that we were given. Alright, those are the two things we have to use. Alright, so we have tan theta is equal to opposite over the hypotenuse, and we just fill in these things, right? So this would be tan theta, and in this case theta will be 35 degrees, right? So this will be tan 35 is equal to the opposite, which is x, over the adjacent, which is 20. And if we want to solve for x, we just make x the subject of the formula. We take over the 20 is divided here, and we take it over, it will multiply. So we'll have tan 35 multiplied by 20, and that will give you the value of x. Alright, so if we punch in that in our scientific calculator, you will get tan 35 times 20. That will give you a value of 14.004, and that will be equal to x. So x will have a value of 14 meters. We rounded it off to the nearest meter. Alright, so it's as simple as that. So it all depends on what you have to find or what you are given, and that will be the ratio that you will have to use. Alright, and the same steps that we did here will apply for all the ratios, cos and sine. Alright, check to see what you are given and what you have to find. Good. So let me give you a question, and you will work it out and comment the answer. If I love your comment, that means your answer is correct. Use the trig ratios to find for h. Good luck, everybody. Please comment your answer. Good luck once again. Stay blessed.